lost my mom 25 years ago. And despite being so young when it happened, I had vivid and treasured memories of my mom and did not take to my dad dating a year after her death. My dad recognized that he knew this would be hard for me, but said that as a parent and adult, he knew what was best, even if it didn't seem that way at first, and that I'd thank him in the long run. Not long after that, he married my stepmom, Lacey, and when I began to act out over it, my dad said that parenting alone was hard and that my sister, Jessica, 28, needed a mom. My dad even got my maternal grandparents to tell me that everything would be fine and that I needed to be a good boy. That was enough to get me to behave during the wedding. But once Lucy moved in and started decorating, I started acting out again. My dad had had enough and just started punishing me whenever I acted out or made Lucy upset, as well as using me. Jessica isn't acting out like this. And to be honest, Jessica was easily pleased and wasn't old enough to have the same attachment to our mom as I did. It really upset me when Jessica started calling Lucy Mom, and it really ticked me off when Lucy started referring to me as her son. I always corrected it when she tried that around me. When Lucy moved in, she and my dad took down all my mom's pictures and got rid of her things. I wasn't allowed to keep any pictures in my room, and I would catch heat if I tried to celebrate my mom's birthday, mourn on the anniversary of her death, and get punished if I didn't celebrate Mother's Day the way Lucy wanted me to. So yeah, she wasn't the saint of a woman to me who stepped in for my mom. It got worse when I was 8 and Lucy had her own kids, because then she and my dad started pushing for adoption. Jessica obviously had no problems with it, but I refused. My dad had my maternal grandparents come in again and tell me that adoption wouldn't be that bad, but I still refused. Lucy and my dad pushed for the adoption anyway, but thankfully, the judge listened to my feelings in a private room and denied it. After that, therapy started, but it didn't last. So they also tried the since you don't want to be a part of this family, you don't get X and you can't come to do II. But I was too stubborn for that method to work on me. The only one I felt who was on my side was my paternal aunt, who kept sticking up for me whenever she'd see what Lucy and my dad were trying to do. So when I turned 18, I went straight to her. When I became a legal adult, my maternal grandparents confessed that they were never okay with the situation, but my dad threatened to keep my sister and me away if they didn't show support. I was furious, so furious that I had my surname legally changed to my mom's maiden name, as I wanted nothing to do with my dad and only ever talked to my paternal aunt. Fast forward to now, and my grandma has passed away. Grandpa died in 2020, and according to their will, only their legal grandchildren are to split a $250,000 inheritance. And since Jessica is legally Lucy's daughter, all she got was a framed photo of my mom and a letter. Jessica doesn't think it's fair and thinks I should share, but I told her to get money from her legal grandparents. My aunt thinks I'm being a bit harsh. So am I the idiot? I did. It had been 2 years since the last time she'd spoken to either of my grandparents, while she frequently called and interacted with Lucy's parents. Jessica was never close to my mom's side of the family because she'd rather spend time with Lucy's family and didn't want to hurt their feelings. I don't blame Jessica for choosing to be adopted now. I'm angry at her belief that she should get any money from my grandparents, despite never showing an interest in having a relationship with them once she was 18 plus. They reached out numerous times, but she never bothered. Yet she has the belief that she's entitled to their money. And no, I don't expect anyone from Lucy's side to leave me anything, nor would I demand Jessica to share. I said goodbye to all of that when I went no contact and changed my surname. You are not the idiot. Interesting how she only wants to be family now that money's involved. Given her age at her adoption, and how many years had passed prior to your grandparents' death, and the explicit wording of legal grandchildren, I have no doubt that the will was crafted after she was adopted and was very specifically worded as such. Your grandparents knew what they were doing and where they wanted the money to go. Exactly. They used the specific term legal grandchildren for a particular reason, because they wanted you to inherit from them. They assume Lucy will inherit from her other grandparents, and she probably will. First, or if your dad is still sore, you may be excluded from his will, and they wanted to make sure you were adequately covered. This is it. Dad and stepmom are so gross. I'm so sorry they treated you the way they did. I wish your dad had the self-awareness to see how he screwed up with you. A part where he threatened your grandparents with cutting off access to their grandkids after they already lost their daughter if they didn't go along with him is all kinds of messed up. At the end of the day, the only person's feelings he considered important were his own. My 33-year-old brother has been married to his wife for about 10 years. He has a young daughter, and she has a teen daughter. My niece is extremely smart, and her teachers believe that she'll have a very good future. So to help her, my sister and I have been saving money for her college. Now that my niece is going to high school, we talked about which school she should go to. My brother mentioned that there's an extremely good, but also very expensive school that he wished he could send his daughters to. But unfortunately, he can't afford it, so our niece will have to go to the same high school as our step-niece. After discussing this for a while, we let him know that we had set a college fund for our niece, and that based on our calculations, we can't afford to use some of that money to send our niece to that school. Sister-in-law asked if we could do the same thing for her daughter, and we told her that we couldn't because the rest of the money was for our niece's college. She thinks my sister and I are both idiots for showing favoritism. Am I the idiot for not paying for my step-niece's school? I saved some money for my niece's school and college, and never did the same for my step-niece, who's just ordinary and not smart like my niece. And I do know her well, and like a good aunt, I want my niece to have the best of everything. Also, my brother's okay with accepting the money for my niece's school. Not the idiot. It's already very generous of you to provide for your niece. Your sister-in-law and her family should consider what they can provide for their daughter. You're not responsible nor obliged in any way to provide for her. It may be useful, however, to have a talk with your niece and make sure she doesn't feel guilty in any way for this decision. Not saying anyone will guilt trip her, just that sometimes good, sensitive people feel guilty for good that comes into their life. I don't know. After 10 years of girls growing up together as sisters, I think it's pretty wild not to see them both as family. They are missing the reasons in this post, either distance or favoritism. Nobody's obligated to give anyone money, but after 10 years, I wonder why they treat the girls so differently. I kind of feel the same way. Not that Ope is obligated to pay for the stepniece, but it's not like Ope's brother only just got married. It's been 10 years, maybe a bit longer since they've been married 10 years, but together longer. It's just odd that Op and her sister don't have a bond with their brother's stepdaughter at all. She is family, even if she's not biologically the brothers. I mean, Up calls the stepdaughter not smart, so it shows how little she cares for that girl, despite her being in the family for over a decade. My girlfriend, Abby, 31, and I, Male, 33, have been together for a few months, and this Easter, I was going to introduce her to my family. We haven't moved in together yet. Abby's quite smart. She has a PhD and works in her field. I only have a BA, so you can imagine my surprise when a hot and smart woman wanted to date me. Anyway, I digress. Abby's passion is writing, although she's never allowed me to read anything she wrote. She dreams of writing a book and says she's practicing and trying to draft things. One day I was staying over and fell asleep, and she went to her office to write. When I woke up, I peered over her shoulder when she was writing and saw names that sounded familiar. I asked her about this, and sure enough, she admitted to writing fan fiction. And said apparently, she already wrote 100k fan fiction and is working on her third one. She says it's writing practice and she loves it. I told her it was cringy, and if she was serious about her book, she'd write it by now because she's already written 2 books, if only they weren't fan fiction. She got silent and told me to leave her alone. When I introduced her to my family, I mentioned that she has a PhD. My brother and sister got impressed and asked about it. Abby tried to tell them, but I interjected and told them not to be so impressed because she wastes her time writing silly fan fiction, so I don't know how she even got her doctorate. It was meant to be a joke, but Abby was angry. She called me an idiot. She wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the day and asked me to drive her home. I tried to come in, but she told me she wanted to be alone and write her fan fiction. I told her she was childish, but left anyway. I haven't heard back from her since then, and I told my sister, and my sister agreed with Abby. I tried to call Abby, but she texted me with idiot and nothing else. My sister thinks I owe Abby an apology, but I don't think I did anything wrong, and yet Abby's annoyed. Retribution, was I really the idiot here? You can imagine my surprise when a hot, smart woman wanted to date me. Well, we're surprised too. Wow, dumping on her harmless hobby and dissing her in front of your family. Yeah, you're not a prize, are you? But thankfully, she's seen the light and has broken up with you. Bucksabank's thinking you're still dating somebody who's broken up with you is certainly more cringe than writing fan fiction. If she's writing, it's writing. Doesn't matter if the boyfriend approves of the subject matter or not. Or being a gatekeeper and judging your girlfriend's hobby so contemptuously makes you the idiot every time. Did you really think you would get any other reaction? You mock her for doing something she enjoys. Sounds like you're so intimidated by her intelligence that you would find anything to humiliate her publicly, to make yourself feel better about the relationship. Yikes. Yikes, you really were a massive idiot. And I think this is a case where you don't realize it yet, but you're already an ex. My 28-year-old male childhood best friend, Brad, is getting married in late May to Vicky. For a week ago on Easter, I received his wedding invite, which only listed my name but not my girlfriend Mary. For context, Brad, Mary, and I've known each other since high school. We were in the same friend group. Mary and I live around 2 hours away from Brad and Vicky. Because Mary's a nurse, she doesn't always have the time to visit Brad and Vicky with me, so I go alone most of the time, but when she's able, she'll join me. Mary has met Vicky and has seen her around 10 times in the past 4 years that Vicky's been with Brad. Mary and I have been together for 6 years in total, and we do plan on getting engaged and married once we're more financially settled. So I asked Brad if Mary was invited and they just forgot to mention her name. To which he replied that Vicky is very strict about some rules and to cut down cost, she's enforcing a no ring, no bring rule for the wedding. So since Mary's just a girlfriend and doesn't have a ring to imply some formality, then she's not invited. I reminded Brad that Mary and I had been together longer than he was with Vicky, and that Mary's also his friend, not just my partner. He says he knows, and he tried to talk Vicky out of it, but she's very strict with that. I let it go. And I was in a dilemma about whether I should go to the wedding or not because of that. Mary told me she wasn't happy about the situation, but I should go to avoid more drama. So I called them to tell them I'll attend. Vicky picked up the phone and said she was sorry about making me uncomfortable by not inviting Mary, but these are the rules. I said I respected the rules. I'm not necessarily happy about it though. She then, for some reason, started being harsh about how Mary and I are not in a serious enough relationship if after knowing each other for so long and being together for 6 years, we're not engaged yet, and joked that, after all, you never know what tomorrow brings. I could break up with Mary anytime since we haven't shown any signs of a true commitment. I confronted her and told her that it's not her place to validate Mary's and my relationship, and that it's shallow of her to use a dumb rule just to shame and micromanage long-term couples who, for whatever reason, haven't gotten married yet. I said I'd pass after all and not attend the wedding. She and Brad said I'm disrespecting them and their choices by choosing Mary over their wedding day. And I said, I don't care. Keep your rules and I'll keep my relationship, because it's more important to me than exclusive. To then any exclusive rules that only exist to shame people. I've been receiving a lot of backlash from other friends for that choice, who said I'm an idiot for being so bitter about something so small. But to me, it's not small. They invalidated Mary and our relationship, not the idiot. I'll ring. No bring is really stupid and outdated. It usually comes from religion or a feeling of superiority, usually rooted in self-consciousness, that your relationship must be better because of a title. First, Mary and Brad were in the same high school friend group, so it could easily be argued that she could be invited purely based on being his friend and independent of her relationship with you. Second, using marriage as a barometer of commitment is insane. So by the bride's logic, if cousin Chad drinks too much in Vegas and marries the girl he's been dating for 2 weeks, she would get an invite while your girlfriend of 6 years would not. That is so dumb. To top all this off, you were initially willing to let it go and just come anyway, but then the bride had to double down and insult your relationship to your face. That just sucks. Groom needs to step up and be a good friend and tell the bride she's being ridiculous. I'd bet $100 that Vicky just doesn't like Mary, and that's the real underlying issue here. When someone comes up with a BS rationale like this, it's usually hiding a darker reason. Brad should be ashamed of himself for endorsing this behavior from Vicky, because he may be trying to say it's her rule, but he's obviously supporting it. Remind them of this in a couple of years when they're divorced and you and Mary are still going strong. My fiancé is pregnant, and when we found out it's a boy, we decided to make him my junior. My name starts with the letter D, so his name will be David Jr. My fiancé said she could agree to name him my name, but doesn't want to add the junior on the birth certificate because she hates the nickname DJ, which my family has already started calling him. I got mad and said that for him to be a real junior, he has to actually have junior in the name and get over the nickname. He's having the option for both a full name and a nickname is nice, but she's refused to include the junior to the name and said, "I'm not compromising." She got upset herself and said that she had already agreed to make him a junior by using my name. And I'm an idiot. I told her she's the idiot since she doesn't want to include junior all over a dumb nickname she doesn't even have to use. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. The whole junior thing is so cringe. It just screams ego. He will already have your name, so you need to compromise to the no junior thing. And why does it have to be junior? Why not the second? My brother is a second, not that anyone has cared his entire life ever. Puppy's son probably wouldn't escape the nickname DJ either. I just wanted to add though, having the same name has, in my uncle and grandfather's experience, been incredibly confusing. We never knew who anyone was calling about or referring to. I'm also sure that my uncle has credit cards opened in my grandpa's name. Nightmares? Yep, my husband was named after his dad. Calling a 6-foot man Little John was just ridiculous, but that was how his family handled it. Big John and Little John. Heck, my mother-in-law and I share a first initial, and our surname is the same. We live at the same address and constantly open each other's mail. When my husband wanted to name our son after him, his dad passed away 3 years before our son was born, so he had ceased being Little John for the most part at that stage. It was a hard veto for me. You are the idiot for not knowing how Junior and Senior works. And Ono Kipli Junior isn't supposed to be part of someone's actual name. If it was, then your son would have a different last name than you. You realize? He'll become a junior by being the second oldest in the family with that name. Then, assuming you die before he does, he'll be elevated to senior. And if he were to name his son the same name, then that son would be both junior and the third. To put it plainly, designations such as the first, second, and third stay the same forever. But senior and junior change according to who's alive. Of course, some people put junior on a birth certificate, which you could